how's it going again? Today, we're not going to look at how to set up campaigns from scratch, nor are we going to discuss the differences between manual and automatic campaigns. We're going to assume that we've already mastered all of that. We're taking it a step further. How to optimize those campaigns, how to understand Amazon's reports, and how to start selling in other countries using both Amazon ads. You know that if you have the Seller Console, Seller Central in Europe, you may have logged in from Spain, but you can sell in other countries: France, Germany, Italy, Poland, Sweden, Belgium, and so on. The same thing obviously happens with Amazon advertising. Amazon advertising allows us to take a campaign and move it to other countries from within the same campaign settings. I can also go directly to the French marketplace and create campaigns there just for France. But be careful. What you can't do, or what I wouldn't recommend doing, is to take a campaign, set it up from Spain, and then launch it in all the countries where you sell: France, Germany, Turkey, Poland, and so on, just to see what happens. Each country has its own rules. Each country has its own cost per click. Each country has its own way of searching, its own keywords. And you know there are language barriers, cultural barriers. Even though we're all in the European Union, a Spaniard from Malaga is not the same as a Pole. It's not the same because they don't look for the same products, they don't search in the same way, they don't use the same keywords, just as they don't look for the same prices either. So we're going to have to adapt those campaigns to each country, no matter what. I remember many years ago, I had a client who said, I'm going to internationalize my e-commerce. And what did he do? He took the Spanish version, installed the Google Translate plugin, and called it a day. He didn't even change the shipping costs. Nothing. He generated thousands and thousands of automatically translated URLs, and as you'd expect, that led to nothing. So can you internationalize easily on Amazon advertising? Yes. Should you do it recklessly? Never. Let's look at the part about continuous campaign optimization. You have to start with the basics and then build up from there. Curiously, almost no one checks this properly, or at least that's what I find with clients: the numbers. Every week you should look at KPIs like ACOS, advertising cost of sales, TACOS, which is the total ACOS including organic sales, the click-through rate, and the conversion rate. But you shouldn't just stick to the numbers you see in the Amazon console. You have to compare it with all your expenses, from the COGS, which is what it costs you to manufacture the product, to how much it costs to bring it from another country, for example, to your factory. How much it costs you to do the prep inside that factory, the preparation of the product to send it, for example, to Amazon FBA. What costs are involved in sending that pallet of products to Amazon FBA? How much does picking and packing cost in FBA? What percentage of refunds you have? And so on. All of this is very complicated to do with external Excel sheets. For that, we have tools that are not within Amazon, but external, such as Sellerboard, Shopkeeper, Helium 10 Profits, Merchant Spring, and so on, which help us better understand the breakdown, the P&L. What each sale is costing us. And ideally, you should do this at the SKU level, product by product, because that way you can fine-tune much better how much you can afford to spend per click and how much you can afford to spend per sale. Also, keep in mind that products can have repeat purchases. So if I spend more on a first sale, but then get a subscribe and save customer, the next sale will give me a higher clean margin. All of this is a lot of work. Well, yes, but if you want to run a business, as a friend of mine says, you have to know how to do the math, even if it's just to run a sunflower seed stand in the park. If you have a high CTR and a low CVR, people are clicking, but the product isn't convincing them. It's time to review things, not just the advertising campaigns, but also within my niche. Am I solving a problem that others aren't? Do I have better reviews than the others? Is it a pricing issue? Is it a fulfillment issue? Am I shipping with my own logistics in 3 or 4 days when people expect 24-hour delivery with Amazon Prime and free shipping? I don't have coupons. It could be many things. If the click-through rate is low, you might be appearing in less relevant searches, so you need to review your keywords. Relevance is very important. In the end, Amazon's recommendations, and by recommendations, I mean everything behind what generates visibility on product listings, whether in advertising or SEO, all come down to search intent. What Amazon wants is to generate revenue. Their main metric, is revenue per customer. So, if we are showing a product for a search that isn't relevant, we're going to see it in the data. That CTR is going to be low, or maybe the conversion rate will be low because that product doesn't satisfy the user search or purchase intent, so you need to pay close attention to that. What should you do with campaigns that aren't performing well? Gradually lower the bids, for example, by 5 cents every 2 or 3 days, or you can even use external software to do it for you. You have AdBadger, PPC Entourage, AdBrew, Tomic from Helium 10. Additionally, you need to remove keywords that aren't converting and, if possible, add them as negative keywords. This is a task you could have done before launching the campaign, because there are certain things you already know won't convert. For example, competitor keywords, competitor ASINs, where maybe we were planning to advertise, but they're far from being our real competition, maybe because we don't have enough reviews, our price is too high, and so on. And in addition, you also need to adjust the location modifiers. For example, if it performs well at the top of our search, we can apply a modifier of plus 20 or plus 50 so that our bid increases dynamically and we appear even more often in that top of search position for queries. One piece of advice I can give you is to create a core or nucleus campaign using only exact match and high bids for the terms that we already know convert well. Another thing I would say is don't just throw in keywords or targeting options randomly into your campaigns. Keep the chaos under control. Years ago, I remember doing an audit for an Australian company where the owner said, well, I just take all my campaigns and add as many keywords as I can with their modifiers and so on. This guy was adding 300 or more keywords into each campaign. That was insane, because when it came time to optimize, he was even doing it with Excel, which meant he had to go through over 300 rows for each campaign, each with their own 300 plus data points multiplied by however many variables. That's unbearable. You have to keep the chaos under control. Don't add so many Urazi keywords or so many segmentations, because trying to optimize and scale that later is just madness. How can we analyze Amazon's key reports? More and more, no? And for that, we're extremely grateful. Amazon is giving us more and more and more and more data. The problem is that if we don't know how to read it, it's as if we had nothing at all. I have 40,000 Excel files, but I don't look at them, or I do look at them, but I don't do anything about it. I don't take any action. Or sometimes I don't even download them at all. Or if I do download them, I don't understand them. Well, for that, there are also tools, or even external services, freelancers, agencies, and so on, specialists in this area. What I recommend is that you start with the basics, which is the search term report. It tells you what the user searched for, where they clicked, and whether they made a purchase. This is perfect for a technique called harvesting, which means keeping what works, basically reaping what you've sown and holding on to keywords that perform well, effective product listing targeting strategies, and so on. And it's also useful for one of the less glamorous parts of advertising, but one that works best, and surprisingly, many people don't use it, which is adding negatives. Add negatives, and add more negatives. Eliminate what doesn't convert. You'd be surprised at how many clicks and how much money we can save if we use negatives properly. And that has a direct impact on the budget for productive clicks left in our campaigns and how that can ultimately lead to better conversions. Obviously, ACOS will go down, ROAS will go up, and the conversion rate will increase, because if we remove the junk Basically, everything improves. Another very useful report is the Search Query Performance Reports, or SQPR. If you have access to this report through Brand Analytics, I strongly recommend that you use it, no matter what. And don't forget about the ad placement report as well. How much am I spending on top of search? How much am I spending on the rest of search? How much am I spending on product pages? And what is the conversion rate there? Maybe what we see is that it's not worth advertising on product detail pages, neither with sponsored products nor display, because we're not converting well there. On the other hand, we should go all in on the top of search. By the way, regarding the Search Query Performance Report, which at least as of now, in May 2025, is still quite a new report. This report, Bau, is pure gold and tells you if you're appearing in searches, the click-through rate and the conversion rate. You can also measure it against other products. You can use external tools that interpret this report and help you see the data more clearly. For example, Helium 10 has integration with the Search Query Performance Report, and Sellerize.com does as well. That can help you optimize better. And now we move on to the part about international expansion. Now it's time to go abroad, to step beyond the border. How do we launch in other countries? Well, it's simple. You shouldn't just copy and paste what you have in Spain, Germany, or Italy, as we mentioned at the beginning, because basically the buyer's behavior changes. The keywords are not the same, the competition is not the same, and the customer's purchasing power is not the same either. And as soon as we step outside of Spain, there are up to 27 countries with these different variables. I don't know if you have advertised your products in the UK or in Germany, but the cost per click is completely different. Or also, culturally, there are many differences, even when it comes to seasonality. For example, here the sun comes out starting in April, but in many European countries, it's still freezing cold. So you can't just replicate what you do in Spain. So what can I actually keep the same? Well, the campaign structure, the type of keywords, and a few other things. But even the catalog selection should be different. What do we need to adapt? Obviously, the language. Here, you need to use tools to find those keywords in other languages. For example, I use Helium 10 and Jungle Scout, but there are many more options out there. And something super important, the bids. Italy has one price, Spain has another, France has a different one, and Germany's prices are completely different from the other marketplaces. There are other new marketplaces like Belgium and Sweden and Poland that have lower cost per click rates. But even there, we have to recalculate carefully. Because in Sweden, the main currency is the Swedish krona, or the zloty in Poland. So when we look at the bids, we're going to say, oh, what? I don't even know. How much each click costs? As advice, I'd always say, to start with exact match campaigns. Start with a low budget, test it, and if it works, scale up. Unless you already know what you're doing, in that case, you probably wouldn't even need to be watching this video. Just take action. Smart adjustments by country are also important. There are some details that often get overlooked. Change the currency in your campaigns to see the real performance, okay? As I was saying, for example, the UK uses pounds, Sweden uses Swedish krona, Poland uses zloty. I have no idea what the exchange rate is, and in fact, it changes every day. So convert everything to euros to see if you're actually making sensible bids compared to your profit per product or not. You have to take other things into account, not just language and culture, local holidays, shopping hours, use key dates. For example, it might be a holiday in Spain, but not in Italy. Well, in that case, you know that your campaigns in Spain will perform worse because people won't be in front of their computers. And in the France or Italy, well, yes, a few days ago there was a blackout. And for example, we saw that France, Portugal, and Spain were at a minimum because there was no electricity, no internet connection. But other European countries were still generating impressions, clicks, and sales. Well, that's a very extreme case, but it's just to show you that this can really create a very big divergence between one country and another. The issue of holidays, for example, vacations or special days, winter breaks, and so on. And don't mix, above all, don't mix the ACCOs from different countries. If we don't analyze them separately, we're just fooling ourselves. Each country will have its own metrics and its own performance. All right, let's move on to the summary. Review your metrics every week. Usibos aaku itosan. Use the reports properly to clean up the Kwasan campaigns and scale what works. Above all, make use of negative targeting. Don't copy campaigns between countries without adapting on anything. Start simple in each new country and scale up. Exact match campaigns, your low budget testing. Whether you already have campaigns in another country or not, you can start launching your international campaigns now. I'd love to read your comments and find out which country you're planning to launch in or how your performance has differed across various countries. Or even anecdotes. Tell me, for example, wow, I had no idea this product would do well in Italy, and it's been a hit thanks to Amazon advertising campaigns. All right, I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next Amazon Ads education video. See you then.